This here is our lit front yard because I decided to put the colored lights onto my big power poles. Dad and I found out that these big power poles back here can handle the weight of these colored lights. And I had to remove this big power pole 2 days ago so that the water company truck could come into our front yard and empty out our septic tank. So we're able to continue flushing our toilets. But anyway, back onto the display, my lit big power poles, because I decided to put these colored lights on here. From front all the way to the back. My Santa lights, Santa on his helicopter and Santa on his airplane. The icicle lights on my utility poles. From there all the way down to here. When I came downstairs with all these Christmas decorations, Dad said that I did a good job getting the colored lights onto my big power poles and these icicle lights onto my utility poles. And the three little white Christmas trees in my Christmas lawn stakes. That one is the only one that's not lit up, because when I plugged those trees in after I got my Christmas plug-in lawn stakes plugged into them, into the three little white Christmas trees, I was trying to figure out why that tree didn't come on with the other two. And I found out that there was no fix to it. And then over here are the candy canes that I have in the driveway alongside, that I have in the ground alongside the driveway, because of my railroad crossing sign. And yes, I decided to bring that green light downstairs because these lights on my gate decided to quit working. Plus, so that my railroad crossing sign and gate can be seen at night, and hopefully whenever I come out here to put my gate down for Santa come Christmas Eve, he'll be able to see my gate. All the Christmas decorations that I brought downstairs. And I have the display connected with that middle security light of mine, because I have that middle security light of mine on a remote plug because one of the sensors that was in that security light decided to quit working. So I have that security light on a remote plug, and because of that, I have the display connected with that metal security light until Dad and I get two get three more sensors for those three lights. But other than that, when I came downstairs with the Christmas decorations, I did a good job getting them set up and hung. Did a good job getting the colored lights onto my big power poles, the icicle lights on my utility poles, setting up the Santa lights, and the three little white Christmas trees in my plug-in lawn stakes, and setting up the candy canes alongside the driveway, getting my and getting my railroad my colored Christmas lights onto my railroad crossing sign and my gate along with Dad's help, because it involved me having to use his zip ties because he doesn't have any more electrical tape. So zip ties is what I chose to use for those colored lights. Back here, I also had to remove these lights back here before removing this big power pole. Now that the septic tank is emptied and and our toilets can flush normally without clogging up, this big power pole of mine is back in the ground, and these lights back here are reconnected to this big power pole. The other reason why I decided to hang the colored lights onto my big power poles and the icicle lights on my utility poles is because for the last 3 years since after Graham died, my railroad crossing sign and gate have been the only one lit for Christmas. And this year I put an end to that. Because now my utility poles and my big power poles, because now my utility poles and big power poles are lit with my railroad crossing sign. So that way my railroad crossing sign won't feel left out. And Dad decided for us to use just my tree this year because to him, putting up the big Christmas tree is a lot of work because of how big it is, and it requires putting a lot of ornaments onto the tree, and so on and so forth. But anyway, back out here, and yes, you can see here that I decided to use hooks for these colored lights to avert having to remove these top big power pole lines, because that's what I had to do the last time there were plans on hanging these colored lights onto my big power poles. This time the colored lights on my big power poles, and I didn't have to remove my top big power pole lines. Because the last time there were plans to hang these colored lights onto my big power poles, it involved me having to remove my top big power pole lines and put them in the shop for now. Dad and I were having to use barbed wire for these colored lights. And barbed wire for the icicle lights. This year, since I decided to do this, decided to use hooks for these colored lights so I can continue having my top big power pole wires on my big power poles. So that green light that I'm using that I brought downstairs is to help my railroad crossing sign be seen at night. Those lights that are on my gate are the reason why I went upstairs for that green light. See here? Zip ties. But the yard looks great. And I took a picture of it to put onto my tablet for wallpaper using my other phone that's on the verge of breaking. So and I got two of my mini Christmas trees set up in my room, and I got a Christmas tree wreath on my bedroom door. So that's the line of candy canes. The difference is the only thing that's not helping the display light up the yard is my window Christmas truck, and that's because it's on my bathroom window now that I'm finally moved in. Now that I'm finally moved across the hall because it took a lot of work. Because it took a hell of a lot of work to get me moved across the hall since after Graham died. But I'm thankful that it got done. So here's our lit display. Until it comes time for me to grab the remote and walk towards that living room window and shut the display off. Either before or after I shut the tree off. And yes, as you know, my Santa lights, Santa on his airplane and Santa on his helicopter, are set up on this side of my connection wires. And plugged in with the icicle lights, my Christmas plug-in lawn stakes, and the 3 little white Christmas trees. So here's our lit display.